Welcome back to Buys in Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Menzel.
We're back on a Monday to do a Super Bowl recap. So, first time for everything.
Yeah, and what a Super Bowl it was. Yeah. A high-scoring offensive game. Back and forth the entire way. Although it seemed like the Eagles were going to pull away early, the Chiefs came clawing back, and it turned into a tight affair at the end of the game.
Yep. Last night it was Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles versus Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. It was a close game. It was a good game on both ends. I want to start with this. I didn't get my prediction. The Eagles did not win, and also my score prediction was not close. But however, it was a really good game. But Dash, what is your initial thoughts on this game?
My initial thoughts on this game, kind of how I predicted it to be, because I did predict a 38-35 score. I just predicted the incorrect team to win the game. Yeah. But this was, kind of what I expected it to be. I know these defenses, especially Philadelphia's defense, are very good. But both of these offensive lines for these teams are outstanding. And when you win in the trenches, your side of the ball is going to win most of the time. And in this case, the offensive lines did a great job allowing for both quarterbacks time to throw the ball. And that is why each team scored over 30 points.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So the first quarter, Eagles looked good. They looked like how they were in the course of the season, right? Jalen Hurts had a good tempo on the offense. But when you went to Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce was unstoppable. And you would think the Eagles would game plan for him because that's all they really got on the offense is Travis Kelce, and they just couldn't stop him.
Absolutely. And, every time that the ball's thrown to him, he was wide open. And, it wasn't as many passes thrown to him as you normally would expect, but once again, like I said, every time that the ball is thrown to him, wide open. I mean, you just can't cover him on certain routes.
Yeah, but in the second quarter, A.J. Brown, how about that pass to A.J. Brown in the end zone? Double coverage, too. That's a pass you don't really want to throw, especially, early in that game. That could be an interception. You lose tempo, lose momentum, but he floated it, and A.J. Brown adjusted to that ball. That was a really good adjustment.
And the Titans got to keep kicking themselves over and over again for losing A.J. Brown on draft day earlier this year. Yeah. And, the great job of him getting over the rookie, Trent McDuffie, in coverage, and Brown just did a great job of adjusting to the ball. And, that was a great throw by Jalen Hurts as well.
Yep, but later on in that quarter, Jalen Hurts fumbles, right? And the Chiefs get a scoop and score. Now I'm like, whoa, the Chiefs might be coming back here. I'm thinking the Chiefs were working their magic early in the game, but,
yeah,
just a good play.
A little bit of a questionable call on that play, too. It was a third and medium, and Jalen Hurts, they decided to do a QB keeper with Hurts, and he was just pressured immediately by Nick Bolton, the middle linebacker, just loses the ball trying to get it into his other arm, and Nick Bolton takes it and scoop and score all the way.
Yep, and then also Pat Mahomes re-injures his ankle kind of at the end of that second quarter, and I'm like, my first thought was, whoa, this might be over. Like, if he can't be mobile, he has to stay in the pocket and throw, which he can do. He can throw the ball, but I'm like, whoa, the spirits of the Chiefs could be down. Can they win this game? But, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, Pat Mahomes is going to go in that locker room and turn into a demon, tap into his inner GOAT, and take over this game. That's kind of what he did.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody who was wearing red in that stadium, their heart just stopped as soon as they saw that Mahomes was hurt again. But the thing is with Mahomes, I feel like his leg would have had to have been snapped in half for him not to come back into the second half of this game. He is a very determined player. I mean, we saw how angry he was in their game against Jacksonville in the divisional round when he was told to go to the locker room. He wanted to come back into the game. He threw his jacket down in anger. He was upset. He wanted to play, but thankfully, the injury wasn't as bad as it seemed, and he was able to come back in the second half.
Definitely wasn't, because in the third quarter, he comes back scrambling. Literally, one of the first plays comes out scrambling, still making plays. Jalen Hurts still doing his thing, still scoring, still moving the ball. So this was a really good back-and-forth game. I haven't seen a Super Bowl like this in a long time. It's pretty balanced. I feel like the Eagles' defense could have been a little bit stronger. I feel like people anticipated more from the Eagles' defense with containing Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but hey.
Yeah, and, as we head into the fourth quarter now, and the Chiefs are trying to mount that comeback, they get a touchdown drive to Kadarius Toney, of all people, and, his one catch of the game, but it went for a touchdown, the midseason pickup from the Giants, and they end up getting another touchdown, so now it just seems like the momentum's all in the Chiefs' favor as they go up by 8 points, and now the Eagles got to figure out, what are we going to do? It seems like the Chiefs have everything, but then the Eagles, which they did well in this game on offense, long, sustained drives to keep Mahomes off the field. There were multiple drives of over 7.5 minutes in this game for the Eagles.
Definitely. Now, we got to talk about the infamous controversial play with Juju, right? So, Juju does a whip route, and Pat Mahomes sees him, and he runs by Bradbury. Now, Bradbury, we all saw the replay. Now, let me just ask this first before I get into it. Do you think that was a penalty? Yes or no?
Yes, I honestly do think it was a penalty, and Bradbury admitted as such.
Yeah, he did.
But the thing is, though, it's a penalty, but it's a penalty that gets 50-50 calls. Sometimes it gets called, sometimes it
that.
doesn't. It really just depends if the refs see it or not.
Right, I want to get into that because in the second quarter, he literally held, same Juju and Bradbury held him, and they didn't call it. Now Juju's probably saying he threw a fit on the field too, like, okay, you owe me one, you got it. Next time, call it. So he does a whip route, beats him to the outside. Bradbury Lee tugs and grab, like his arm is literally around Juju Smith's waist, and they call it. And I don't like that. You know when people say the game is written, you know, the writers behind the screen,
writers,
okay,
yep.
right? But when they call a play, what needs to be like a flag that needs to be called, then it's let the boys play. That's a bad. It's a flag. It's a flag. He held them. He admitted that he held them. Just because it's down to the wire, you want to see some amazing. The game is already amazing. It's already a good game. It doesn't have to be a last drive game. Jalen Hurts wins it all for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a good call, and I'm glad he called it. And hey, it was just. I don't think it was a controversial call. I think it was a call that needed to be made. He held them, so you know.
Yep, I agree. It's just a judgment call. If the ref sees it, they're going to call it. And like you mentioned, Juju was upset about the one earlier. And when players tell refs about, hey, this guy has done this, he's held, or something like that, the refs are going to keep a closer eye on that throughout the rest of the game. And while they weren't calling a lot of stuff earlier, there wasn't a lot of stuff to be called, to be quite honest. It was just, you know, a lot of good throws, a lot of good coverages. It was kind of a clean game up to that point.
Definitely. And then that kind of put them in great field position. They ran the clock out. You know, this is smart judgment from the coaches. I mean, I'm like
Andy Reid, one of the best to do it.
Yep. I thought they were going to score, and then he slid like kind of.
Jerick McKinnon, probably the game-saving play right there. The Eagles were trying to give him the touchdown. He slides down to the 2-yard line. Perfect.
Yep, and then they drain the clock out, kick the field goal. It's over, 38-35. You know, but Jalen Hurts did have one more chance to score, but it was just too far. I don't know, his arm is not that strong, and it just kind of just went midfield. But yeah, it was a really good game. I feel bad, Jalen Hurts. It was tough seeing him, you know, lose like that. But I mean, Pat Mahomes, you can't sleep on him. He's going to get like I told you, he's going. I did predict the Eagles to win, but Pat Mahomes is going to get the job done, no matter what circumstance he's in, and it showed.
And we remember before the season, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, were they going to be the same team this year? They had lost Tyreek Hill, and you know they're getting guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and are they going to really be the same offense as normal? And they also got this rookie named Isaiah Pacheco out of Rutgers.
He was dominating.
Exactly,
man.
but at the beginning of the season, it's like, who are these people? And like, is Patrick Mahomes going to be able to lead this team to another Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean, this offense hasn't skipped a beat. They actually increased production in points per game and yards per game from last year, if you can believe it. And that's just a testament to how great of a quarterback Patrick Mahomes is and how great of a head coach Andy Reid is.
Definitely.
Because Andy Reid can make lemons out of lemonade in a lot of different situations.
Definitely. And we got to highlight Devontae Smith's performance. He had 7 receptions for 100 yards. He was making his presence felt in the beginning of the game, in that first drive, rather. He was doing pretty good, man. I think people kind of overlook Devontae Smith. You know, he's a really good receiver, and he showed, especially on the biggest stage. And Jalen Hurts, even though he lost, I feel like he really proved himself, stamped himself, that he can be a franchise quarterback. He did pretty good.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's a lot of people worried that this was the Eagles' best shot with Hurts on his rookie contract. And, you know, they might be worried that he's going to be paying the big bucks. But that's down the road. I mean, right now, they definitely are still a very legitimate team with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. And you talked about Devontae Smith. He's been an underdog ever since he's come out of college. A lot of people saying that he's too small for the NFL, too light. He wouldn't be able to do it. He's definitely got the speed. He's got, you know, he's got the strength, too.
Yeah.
So, you know, even though they talk about his size, he's got the strength to be able to be an NFL wide receiver. And another guy I wanted to quickly mention, too, who had an amazing performance, and if it wasn't for Mahomes, I would say he deserved the Super Bowl MVP. Linebacker Nick Bolton for the Kansas City Chiefs. Had that fumble return for a touchdown, but on top of that was the Kansas City Chiefs' leading tackler with 8.5 tackles. And he actually almost had another fumble return for a touchdown, but it was called incomplete. So he had an amazing performance on the defensive side as well.
You know, I think the Eagles' defense, you know, kind of let a lot of people down. And I want to get your initial thoughts on this, too. But I feel like the Eagles' defense could have did more, especially with Pat Mahomes, you know, mainly targeting Travis Kelce, if you think about it. And Travis Kelce was open for a lot of plays that he shouldn't have been open. I mean, double coverage, 2 people on him. I mean, this is a guy that you're planning on all week for the biggest game of your life, and he just balls out. What do you think about that?
I think the biggest issue with the Eagles' defense that really honestly surprised me, I mean, I did mention how good the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line is, but the Eagles' defensive line, no pass rush, no sacks in the entire game. And that was with Patrick Mahomes being hobbled in the second half. And that surprised me. I was really stunned that, you know, guys like Fletcher Cox and Brad Graham and those guys, they couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes, and that stunned me. I really was surprised that they couldn't apply any pressure. I feel like they should have done more blitzes because they really just played a coverage game on defense, and that wasn't going to work, especially like you mentioned with Travis Kelce.
With Travis Kelce.
6 receptions for 81 yards. And then you also had Juju Smith-Schuster who had 7 receptions for 53 yards. He really turned it on in the second half.
Yeah.
And this Eagles defense just looked kind of lost for most of the game.
Yeah. So what do you say to those that they say the game was trash, as if you will, because of that call with Juju Smith and James Bradbury?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've seen a lot of, as an a guy who's watched NFL for over 20 years now, it's, these things are going to happen. And if this were to happen in like a normal regular season game or like a late call, something like this, it would just be swept under the rug the next day because, it's just, this stuff happens. And, it hurt a little bit when I watched to see the game and like that because I was kind of excited for a real quick, who's going to get the ball last kind of finish. But
under 2 minutes, he would have had under 2 minutes with the ball.
He probably, because it was going to be about 2.5 minutes to go when when that flag came out. But sometimes it just comes down to strategy. And the Chiefs also played their cards well because the Eagles were going to try to let them score. They were going to try, and Chiefs did a good job of milking that clock as much as they could and winning the game at the very end.
Now, let me ask you this. For Pat Mahomes, a guy coming in the season, people not believing in him, not more so believing in him, but believing in his team from the pieces that he lost. Is he now considered the GOAT in today's game? Because, Brady's gone, technically, if he doesn't try to come back again. But is he now the GOAT quarterback in today's game now?
I personally think so. He's definitely the standard that a lot of other teams and quarterbacks. I mean, there's a lot of offenses that are trying to change their offense to what the Chiefs run right now. And I don't know if anybody can really do it as well as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid can on this Chiefs offense. And, and also, I have a question for you about this Chiefs team as well. They've won 2. They've been to 3 Super Bowls in 5 years as a starter for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But they won 2 of them. Is only with 2 Super Bowls though so far, and not saying that they couldn't win more, but is this team a dynasty right now? Would you call this team a dynasty?
I feel like they have to win one more. You know why? Because with the first team, you have Tyreek, Barry, all those other players. I feel like that was a very elite team. They had no choice but to win. And then with this team, Pat Mahomes. I feel like if there's no Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl, there's no championship, in my opinion. So I think they have to win one more to stamp it, because everything comes into play, players, coaches, everything. So I don't know, in my head, it's always the three-peat. If you can get 3 of them, I don't know, for them in the next 2 or 3 or so years, I feel like that could be a dynasty. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think the third one kind of stamps the dynasty because, you had the Patriots back in the early 2000s who won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. That's kind of the dynasty that you want to live up to. But I definitely think the Chiefs can do it. And we talked about the Chiefs this year. Nobody really expected them to win it all this year. I mean, they were still going to be a good team, but no one expected, you had teams like the Bills who were the heavy AFC champions, and you also had the Bengals who seemed to have the Chiefs' number every time they played against each other.
Why they called it a Burrowhead instead of Arrowhead.
Until that happened. And then, so nobody really thought that the Chiefs could capture that momentum again, and especially earlier this season, especially when they lost in Week 3 to the Indianapolis Colts. And looking back on that definitely makes me wonder how the heck they lost to the Colts to begin with. But
hey, things happen.
Yeah, any given Sunday. But this Chiefs team, I think, will be great for as long as Patrick Mahomes is there and as long as Andy Reid is there. This team is going to continuously be a Super Bowl contender no matter what else is on this roster. And not to say that nobody else on this team is elite level. Like, you got Travis Kelce, probably one of the best tight ends in the NFL, if not ever. Yeah. They have good players on this defense like Chris Jones. I feel like they could definitely get better on the defensive side, which, to say that there's room for improvement on a team like this is kind of scary to think about, that they could actually get better, especially on the defensive side. And they got weapons like Juju and MVS on the offense.
Well, I hope those boys are enjoying that in Arizona. But we're going to catch you guys next Friday. This Friday, sorry about that. Thanks for tuning in. Go Bison.